I think that the Mozart comedies are like Shakespeare middle comedies. So they're like As You Like It and Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night. They're completely humanistic in their comedy and in their tragedy. But Figaro, Così fan tutte, and Don Giovanni are brilliant pieces of humanity. And so they kind of transcend their period in how they speak to the audience of any age that they've been played in. And now I have to deal with what's the clearest way to tell the story in front of this current audience here in Indianola. And I think my work with the cast here is going to be all about storytelling. That staging is one thing, but staging has to come from story, and the story of this piece is not the most crystal clear thing. So we have a lot of talking to do about what is the story of this piece. I mean, is this the story of a sexual addict? Is this the story of a Don Juan swashbuckler that we're supposed to admire? Is this the story of a community that somehow has to respond to a seducer rapist, and what happens to the community? The women have the best music in this piece, really. And they seem to be the most fully fleshed out people in it. Giovanni doesn't even have a psychological aria in it. So it's interesting that the meteor music was not given to the protagonist. That question of what do you want audiences to take away from it? I don't know. I think that they have to empathize with every character in the opera. There's 8 of them, if you count the commendatore. Certainly 7 of them you need to empathize with them, and you have to understand, yes, if I were in that situation, I would do that, or no, please don't do that. So I even think we have to empathize with Don Giovanni. We have to empathize with why he does what he does. There are many people still like Giovanni, men and women, who are seducers in one way or another. And I think that the piece, and remember, he's never successful once in the course of the opera. It starts with Donna Anna's seduction being not successful, although we're not really sure because we have to take her word for it. But supposedly it's unsuccessful, and he kills her father. And from then on, and I think him killing this old man is a real turning point in his life, and it happens with his karma. With women. He tries to seduce Zerlina, and that gets interrupted. He there's some other woman that he's interrupted with that he talks about, but throughout the piece, he is not successful with women at all. And I think it's because he kills this old man. I think that when people come to see the production and they look at the set, they're not going to see anything that feels very different from 17th century. What they might get a little bit because the set's kind of torqued a little bit and it's raked down in front here, is that it's going to feel like how you're looking at the world is from a slightly different angle than one would normally look at the world. So I always think a set should be the opera. And I think as the community, as the civilized world gets closer and closer to bringing Giovanni to justice, it wraps itself tighter and tighter around him. So the set is kind of claustrophobic in a way. I like a lot of dimension in my work. I'm not really. I like to be able to touch it, that the audience feels if they went up that they could touch it, that there'd be texture to it, rather than a painted drop or something like that. I really am turned on by this space. And look at this arena. I mean, for this piece particularly, you get to watch like you're in a jury box, watching this guy do what he does. And whether you think that's funny or you're appalled by it is how you judge him, right? So it's really about, ultimately what people are going to take away is how they feel about the piece, and that's what I'd want them to question is, do you think this is funny, or do you think this is appalling? And as each person in the world responds to him, is that an appropriate response?